Princess Valera Sothan stood before the viewing window of the royal vessel Throne of Silence and watched the stars blur past. Her silver eyes reflected the cold light of distant suns. She was the third heir to the Sithrani Empire, and she had never felt so insulted in her 200 years of life. "A human," she said, her voice tight with anger. "You are sending me a human bodyguard." The hologram of her father flickered slightly as the ship passed through a pocket of interference. Emperor Sothan XII looked tired, as he always did these days. The weight of ruling 1,000 worlds showed in every line of his ancient face. "It is a diplomatic gesture," he said. "The humans requested it as a sign of good faith before the peace negotiations. One of their soldiers will join your security detail. I have Commander Drax and 20 of the finest Sithrani warriors in the galaxy protecting me. What possible use is a human? The use is political, daughter. Nothing more. Smile at the creature, let it follow you around, and when the negotiations are complete, we will send it back to whatever rock it came from." Valera turned away from the window. Her lavender skin seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of her quarters. Humans are primitive. They have no cybernetic enhancements, no genetic modifications. They die from simple diseases. They live for barely a century. They are useful for manual labor and as cannon fodder in wars. Nothing else. And yet they control 40 star systems now, her father said quietly. They expand faster than any species we have encountered. Perhaps there is value in understanding them better. I understand them perfectly. They are insects who have learned to build starships. That does not make them worthy of respect." The Emperor's hologram flickered again. "The human arrives within the hour. Treat it with basic courtesy, Valera. That is a command from your Emperor, not a request from your father." The hologram vanished. Valera stood alone in the silence of her quarters and felt her anger settle into cold contempt. 1 hour later, she stood in the docking bay beside Commander Drax Tauren. The commander was everything a Sithrani warrior should be. He stood 7 feet tall, with deep blue skin covered in ceremonial scars that mocked his victories. His cybernetic eye glowed red as it scanned the approaching shuttle. 4 arms rested at his sides, each one capable of crushing steel. "I reviewed the human's file," Drax said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Daniel Cole, age 34. Former soldier in their Special Operations Forces. No notable achievements. No cybernetic upgrades. No genetic enhancements. He carries a standard sidearm and a knife." "A knife," Valera repeated. "How quaint. My warriors carry plasma rifles that can cut through starship hulls. This human brings a knife." Drax made a sound that might have been laughter. "Perhaps he intends to prepare our meals." The shuttle doors opened. A human male walked down the ramp, and Valera felt her contempt deepen. He was so ordinary. Average height by human standards, which made him short compared to any Sithrani. Brown hair cut close to his skull. Plain features. He wore a simple gray uniform with no medals or decorations. His eyes were an unremarkable shade of green. He carried a small bag over one shoulder and a sidearm on his hip. That was all. Daniel Cole stopped before them and offered a slight bow. "Princess Valera. Commander Drax, I am honored to serve on your security detail." His voice was calm and quiet. There was no fear in it, but no pride either. He spoke like a man discussing the weather. Drax stepped forward and looked down at the human. The size difference was almost comical. "You are the protection the humans send for our princess?" "You?" "I am. Where is your armor? Your heavy weapons? Your combat enhancements?" Daniel glanced down at himself, then back up at the towering Sithrani warrior. "I was not issued any." "Then, what exactly do you bring to this assignment?" "Myself, Commander." Drax's forearms tensed. Valera could see that he wanted to crush this tiny creature for its insolence. But they had their orders. "Put him somewhere out of the way," Valera said. "I do not wish to see him unless absolutely necessary." She turned and walked away without another glance at the human. Behind her, she heard Drax issuing orders to the other guards. They were laughing. She did not blame them. Later that evening, Ambassador Helen Park requested a private meeting with the princess. The human diplomat was older, with gray streaking her black hair and lines around her dark eyes. Unlike the soldier, she carried herself with obvious intelligence and political awareness. "I wanted to thank you for accepting Mr. Cole onto your detail," Park said. "I know it was not your preference. It was my father's command. I am simply obeying, of course." Park paused. "I should mention that our intelligence services have detected chatter about a possible threat to your safety. An assassination attempt during the journey to Meridian Prime." Valera waved a hand dismissively. "There are always threats. Commander Drax and his warriors have protected my family for generations. We do not need human help." "I understand. But perhaps keep an open mind about Mr. Cole. He was selected very carefully for this assignment." "Selected for what?" "To stand in corners and look unremarkable. He does that very well." Park smiled, but there was something hidden in her eyes. "I hope you never have to find out, Your Highness." "Truly I do." After the ambassador left, Valera found herself walking the corridors of the ship. She did not know why. Perhaps she simply wanted to see her domain, to remind herself of her power and position before the negotiations began. She found Daniel Cole standing near an observation window, staring out at the stars. He noticed her approach and straightened slightly. "Princess, what are you doing here, human?" "Learning the ship's layout. Memorizing exit routes, defensive positions, potential choke points." She stepped closer, studying him with open curiosity. "You truly believe you can protect me? You, with your soft body and your primitive little weapon?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice remained perfectly calm. "I hope you never have to find out, Your Highness." The same words the ambassador had used. Valera felt a flicker of unease, though she could not say why. What is that supposed to mean? "It means I hope this journey is peaceful and boring. I hope you return home safely without ever needing my services." He paused. "But if something does happen, I will do my job." "And what is your job exactly?" "To make sure you survive. Whatever that requires." There was something in his green eyes that made her uncomfortable. A stillness, an emptiness. Like staring into deep water and not knowing what swam beneath the surface. She left without another word. 3 hours later, the ship entered the communication dead zone near the Krell Nebula. Standard procedure required all vessels to maintain radio silence through this region. Valera was in her quarters when the alarms began to scream. "Commander," Drax's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Tight with sudden tension. "Unknown vessels approaching. 3 ships. They are not responding to hails. All warriors to defensive positions. Protect the princess." Valera felt her heart begin to pound. Through her window, she saw them. 3 dark shapes emerging from the nebula's swirling clouds. Weapons already glowing with charged energy. The first shot slammed into the throne of silence, and the deck shuddered beneath her feet. Someone was trying to kill her. The throne of silence shook as another volley of weapons fire struck its shields. Valera grabbed the edge of her desk to steady herself. Through the window, she could see the 3 enemy ships circling like predators around wounded prey. Her door burst open. Commander Drax entered with 6 of his warriors, their plasma rifles ready. Daniel Cole followed behind them, his hand resting on his simple sidearm. "We must move you to the secure room, Princess," Drax said. "The shields will not hold much longer." "They are trying to board us. Who are they?" Vrin, mercenaries. The worst killers money can buy. Valera knew the Vrin. Reptilian creatures with scales like armor and teeth like knives. They took contracts that other assassins refused. They never failed. How did they find us? How did they know our route? Those questions can wait. Right now, we move. The group formed around her in a protective formation. Drax led the way with 4 warriors. 2 more walked beside Valera. Daniel Cole drifted to the rear, his eyes constantly moving, watching everything. The ship shuddered again. Somewhere in the distance, metal screamed as something tore through the hull. "Boarding pods," Drax growled. "They are inside the ship now." They moved through the corridors at a rapid pace. Valera's heart was pounding, but she kept her face calm. She was a princess of the Sithrani Empire. She would not show fear in front of her warriors or in front of a human. They reached a junction where 4 corridors met. Drax raised a fist, signaling everyone to stop. His cybernetic eye whirred as it scanned ahead. "Contact," he said. 12 Vrin, coming from the starboard corridor. "We fight through them." The Sithrani warriors raised their plasma rifles. The first Vrin appeared around the corner, and the corridor exploded with weapons fire. The mercenaries were fast and brutal, but the Sithrani were elite soldiers. Bodies began to fall on both sides. Valera pressed herself against the wall, watching the battle unfold. The Vrin threw small canisters that released clouds of yellow gas. 2 Sithrani warriors collapsed, choking on the chemical weapon. "Keep moving," Drax shouted, his forearms firing 2 rifles while his other hands reloaded. "Do not stop for anything." They pushed through the junction, stepping over fallen Vrin and their own dead. More mercenaries appeared ahead of them, and behind them. They were surrounded. Valera looked at Daniel Cole. The human stood near her, his weapon still holstered. He had not fired a single shot. "Are you going to help?" she demanded. "Or are you just going to stand there and watch us die?" Daniel did not answer. His eyes were fixed on something above them. A ventilation grate in the ceiling. The grate exploded outward. 4 Vrin dropped into the corridor directly beside Valera. They had flanked the entire formation by crawling through the ship's ventilation system. The first Vrin raised a serrated blade. Its yellow eyes locked on the princess. Daniel moved. Valera had never seen anything like it. One moment, he was standing still. The next, he was among the Vrin like a ghost made of violence. His sidearm fired 4 times. 4 perfect shots. 4 Vrin fell dead before their bodies could hit the ground. The entire attack lasted less than 3 seconds. Daniel stepped back into position, ejecting the empty magazine and loading a fresh one in a single smooth motion. His face showed no emotion. His breathing had not changed. Drax stared at the human. The other Sithrani warriors stared. Even the attacking Vrin seemed to pause for a moment. "Move," Daniel said quietly. "More are coming." They moved. The battle through the ship became a blur of plasma fire and screaming and death. Valera watched Daniel now. She could not look away. He did not fight like the Sithrani, with overwhelming force and heavy weapons. He fought like something else entirely. Every movement was precise. Every shot was perfect. He seemed to know where the Vrin would attack before they appeared. A Vrin lunged at him with a blade. Daniel sidestepped, grabbed the creature's arm, and broke it with a simple twist. He took the blade and drove it through the Vrin's throat. Another mercenary tried to grab him from behind. Daniel dropped low, swept the creature's legs, and crushed its windpipe with his elbow as it fell. In a wasted motion. No hesitation. No mercy. They reached the secure room at the heart of the ship. Drax punched in the access code with shaking hands. The heavy door slid open, and they poured inside. Behind them, Valera could hear more Vrin approaching. "Seal it," Drax ordered. The door slammed shut. The locks engaged with a deep metallic thunk. They were safe, for now. Valera counted the survivors. Drax was wounded, a deep gash across his chest, leaking dark blue blood. 3 of his warriors remained. Daniel Cole stood by the door, listening to the sounds outside. Ambassador Park was already in the room, having been escorted there earlier. "They are specifically targeting you, Princess," Daniel said. He spoke without turning around. "This is not a raid. This is an assassination." "How do you know?" "They ignored easier targets throughout the ship. They pushed directly toward your quarters, then tracked our movement. Someone paid them to kill you." Drax growled in pain as one of his warriors bandaged his wound. "We can discuss who paid them after we survive. Right now, we have bigger problems. Life support in this room is limited. We have perhaps 6 hours of air." "The door?" Valera asked. "They are already trying to cut through it. They will succeed within 2 hours." Valera felt cold fear settle into her stomach. She was trapped in a metal box, running out of air, while killers worked to break down the door. "Communications?" Daniel asked. "The communication array was destroyed in the initial attack. We cannot call for help." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to look at the group. His eyes met Valera's. She had seen those eyes before, during the fighting. They had been completely calm, almost empty, like the eyes of a corpse that had not stopped moving. Now, in the dim emergency lighting of the secure room, they looked the same. There was no fear in them, no panic, just cold calculation. "The engineering section," Daniel said. "There is a secondary communication system there. Emergency backup. If I can reach it, I can send a distress signal." "The ship is swarming with Vryn," Drax said. "You would have to fight through dozens of them. I will go through the maintenance tunnels. Avoid the main corridors. The tunnels are barely large enough for a human. The air quality there will be poor. Toxic in some sections where the damage has spread. Humans can function longer in low oxygen than most species. It is one of the few advantages we have." Daniel removed his sidearm and held it out to Drax. "Take this. You may need it when they breach the door." Valera stepped forward. "You are going out there alone? With no weapon?" Daniel pulled a knife from his boot. It looked very old. The blade was dark and worn from years of use. "I have a weapon." "Princess, that is a knife." "Yes, against dozens of Vryn mercenaries." Daniel walked to a maintenance panel on the wall and began removing the screws. "I will return with help. Hold the door as long as you can." "Wait." Valera grabbed his arm. He stopped and looked at her. "Who are you? What are you really?" His expression did not change. "I am your bodyguard, Princess. I am doing my job." The panel came free. Beyond it was a dark tunnel, barely wide enough for a man to crawl through. Daniel entered without hesitation. Within seconds, the darkness swallowed him completely. Valera stared at the empty tunnel for a long time. "What is he?" she whispered. Commander Drax shook his head slowly. "I do not know, but I watched him kill 4 Vryn in 3 seconds. Whatever he is not what I expected from a human." The sounds of cutting began against the door. The Vryn were coming. All they could do now was wait and hope that one ordinary human could do the impossible. The maintenance tunnel was dark and tight. Daniel crawled through the metal passage on his hands and knees, his knife held between his teeth. The air was thin and tasted like burning plastic. Somewhere ahead, a damaged section was leaking toxic fumes into the ventilation system. He did not think about the danger. He did not think about the Vryn hunting through the ship above him. He thought only about the next section of tunnel, the next turn, the next objective. Engineering was 400 meters away. The Princess had 6 hours of air. The Vryn would break through the door in 2. He moved faster behind him, In the secure room, Princess Valera sat against the cold metal wall and tried to understand what she had witnessed. Commander Drax lay nearby, his wounds bandaged but his breathing heavy. The 3 surviving Sithrani warriors guarded the door with weapons ready. Ambassador Park was checking the room's emergency systems. "Tell me about him," Valera said suddenly. "The human." Daniel Cole. Park looked up from the control panel. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Who is he? Where did he come from? How did he move like that?" "I cannot tell you everything, Princess. Much of his file is classified. But I can tell you that he was selected from thousands of candidates for assignments exactly like this one. Assignments where he is expected to die." Park was quiet for a moment. "Assignments where the odds of survival are very low." "Yes." "Then why does he accept them? Why would any human choose such missions?" "Because someone has to." Park sat down beside the princess. "That is what he would say if you asked him. Because someone has to." Drax coughed and opened his eyes. Blue blood stained his bandages. "I have fought beside the finest warriors in the galaxy. I have seen soldiers from 100 different species. I have never seen anyone move the way that human moved." "He killed 4 Vryn in 3 seconds," one of the warriors said quietly. "I counted. 3 seconds. It should not be possible." "It is not possible," Drax agreed. "And yet I saw it with my own eye. Both eyes." He touched his cybernetic implant. "I have the recording saved. I will study it later, if we survive." Valera looked at the maintenance panel where Daniel had disappeared. "We treated him like a joke. We laughed at him. Called him useless." "Yes," Park said simply. "You did. He never defended himself. Never tried to prove us wrong. He does not care what others think of him. He only cares about completing his mission." Park paused. "That kind of focus is rare. It cannot be taught. Some humans are simply born with it. Others develop it through experiences that would break most people." "What experiences?" "I told you. His file is classified." In the tunnels, Daniel reached a junction where 3 passages met. The air was worse here. His lungs burned with every breath. A normal human would have collapsed by now. But Daniel had trained in conditions far worse than this. He had learned to function when his body screamed for rest, when his muscles begged for oxygen, when every instinct told him to stop. He did not stop. He could not stop. There was a princess counting on him. There were people who would die if he failed. He chose the left passage and kept crawling. A sound ahead made him freeze. Scraping. Movement. Something was in the tunnels with him. Daniel pressed himself flat against the floor and waited. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. 30 meters ahead, a shape moved through the shadows. Then another. Vryn scouts. They had sent hunters into the tunnels to search for survivors. 2 of them. Both larger than him. Both armed. Daniel gripped his knife and began to move forward, silent as a shadow. The first Vryn never knew he was there. Daniel rose up behind it like a ghost, one hand covering its mouth while the blade slid between its scales and into its brain. The creature shuddered once and went still. He lowered the body to the floor without a sound. The second Vryn turned at exactly the wrong moment. It saw its partner falling. It opened its mouth to scream a warning. Daniel threw the knife. The blade buried itself in the Vryn's throat. The creature stumbled backward, clawing at the weapon, making wet choking sounds. Daniel was on it in 2 seconds, ripping the knife free and finishing the job with a tabouche. Second strike. He cleaned the blade on the dead Vryn's uniform and continued forward. The engineering section was close now. He could feel the vibration of the ship's damaged engines through the metal floor. He found an access hatch and slowly pushed it open. The engineering bay was a disaster. Console sparked and smoked. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Sithrani engineers who had died defending their stations, and in the center of the room, attached to the main power conduit, was a cluster of explosives large, enough to destroy the entire ship. Daniel dropped from the hatch and landed silently on the deck. He approached the bombs carefully, studying their design. Rin military grade. Pressure sensors. Motion detectors. A timer counting down. 18 minutes. The Rin had planned this from the beginning. Kill the princess. Then destroy the ship to eliminate all evidence. Clean. Professional. Daniel knelt beside the explosives and began to work. He had trained in demolitions. He had disarmed devices like this before, but never with a timer this short. Never with his hands shaking from oxygen deprivation. 15 minutes. He found the primary trigger mechanism and began disconnecting wires. The motion sensors were the biggest danger. Any wrong move would trigger an immediate detonation. 12 minutes. Sweat dripped down his face. His vision blurred at the edges. The thin air was affecting him more than he wanted to. Admit. 10 minutes. The pressure sensor was connected to a secondary trigger. He had to disable both at the same time. He pulled 2 wires with both hands simultaneously. The timer stopped at 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Daniel allowed himself one deep breath. Then he stood and walked to the emergency communication console. It was damaged but functional. He activated the distress beacon and began transmitting on all frequencies. This is Daniel Cole, human escort aboard the Sithrani royal vessel Throne of Silence. We are under attack by Vryn mercenaries. Princess Valera Sothan is in immediate danger. Requesting immediate military response. Coordinates attached to this transmission. He repeated the message twice, then set it to broadcast on a loop. It was done. Help would come. The princess would survive. Now he just had to stay alive long enough for that help to arrive. The sound of heavy footsteps made him turn. Vryn warriors poured into the engineering bay from 3 different entrances. They had heard the broadcast. They knew someone had ruined their plan. Daniel counted them. 12, all armed with blades and plasma pistols. All focused on him. The lead Vryn was larger than the others, with scars covering its scaled face. It looked at Daniel with something like curiosity. "One human," it said. Its voice was a harsh rasp. "One small human stopped our bombs and called for help." Impressive. Useless, but impressive. Daniel said nothing. He held his knife loosely at his side. "Your rescue will not arrive in time. We will kill the princess and escape long before your ships arrive. But first, we will kill you. Slowly. You have earned that much respect." The Vryn began to circle him. Daniel turned slowly, keeping them all in view. 12 against 1. No gun, no armor, no backup. Just a knife and whatever strength remained in his exhausted body. The old Daniel, the one from before the training, would have been afraid. He would have calculated the odds and despaired. He would have wondered why he was about to die for an alien princess who despised his species. But the Daniel was gone, burned away by years of missions exactly like this one. The Daniel who remained felt only calm, cold, empty. "Come on, men," he said quietly. "Let us see what you are made of." The Vryn attacked. The first Vryn died before it realized Daniel had moved. He stepped inside its guard, drove his knife up through the soft scales under its chin, and twisted. The creature fell, and Daniel was already moving to the next target. The engineering bay became a storm of violence. Daniel fought with everything he had, using the environment as a weapon whenever he could. He kicked the Vryn into a sparking console and watched electricity cook it from the inside. He grabbed another by its arm and swung it into the path of a plasma shot meant for him. But there were too many. He was too tired. The thin air had stolen his edge. A blade caught him across the ribs. He felt the hot sting of sliced flesh, but did not stop. Another Vryn grabbed him from behind. Daniel slammed his head backward, breaking the creature's snout, then spun and opened its throat with his knife. 6 Vryn down. 6 remaining. Blood ran down his side. His left arm was not working properly. Something was broken inside it. He switched his knife to his right hand and kept fighting. A plasma shot burned across his shoulder. The pain was blinding, but pain was just information. It told him he was still alive. He could use that dot. He killed 2 more Vryn in a flurry of strikes that left him gasping for breath. The remaining 4 circled him more carefully now. They had seen what he could do. They were afraid. Good. The scarred leader watched from the edge of the circle. Its yellow eyes were unreadable. Why? It asked suddenly. Why you fight so hard for an alien who despises your kind? She called you primitive, useless. She laughed at you. Daniel did not answer immediately. He was busy calculating distances, measuring the positions of his enemies, planning his next 3 moves. Because someone has to, he said finally. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have. The leader made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans, you confuse me. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. You are soft and weak and slow. And yet, here you stand, bleeding from a dozen wounds, and you will not fall. Why? Daniel looked at the creature with empty eyes. Because falling is not an option. There is a woman in a room at the heart of this ship who is counting on me. She may hate humans. She may think we are insects. But I gave my word that I would protect her. And my word means something. Words, the leader spat, just sounds in the air. No, words are what separate us from animals. When I say I will do something, I do it. When I say I will protect someone, I protect them. That is what makes me human. He attacked before the Vryn could respond. The fight was brutal and ugly. Nothing like the clean efficiency he had shown earlier. His body was failing. His movements were slower, clumsier. But he refused to stop. Every time a Vryn knocked him down, he got back up. Every time a blade cut him, he kept fighting. The last Vryn warrior fell with Daniel's knife in its eye. Only the scarred leader remained. The 2 of them faced each other across the blood-stained floor. Daniel could barely stand. His vision was fading at the edges. He had lost too much blood. The leader drew a long serrated sword from its back. You have earned a warrior's death, human. I will make it quick. It lunged forward. The engineering doors exploded inward. Princess Valera and Commander Drax burst into the room, weapons firing. The Vryn leader turned in surprise, and 3 plasma bolts hit it in the chest. It staggered, then fell. Valera ran to Daniel as he collapsed to his knees. She caught him before he hit the ground. You came, he whispered. His voice was barely audible. You sent the distress signal. We heard it broadcast through the ship's internal speakers. The Vryn at our door left to find you. Valera looked at the bodies scattered across the engineering bay. 12 Vryn mercenaries. All dead. You killed them. You killed all of them. Not all. You got the last one. Drax limped through the carnage, his wounds reopened and bleeding freely. He stared at the scene with something close to awe. This is not possible. 1 human against 12 Vryn, unarmed except for a knife. It should not be possible. Help me, Valera ordered. He is bleeding out. They carried Daniel between them, following the sound of the distress beacon that continued to broadcast. The remaining Vryn on the ship were scattered and confused, their leadership dead. Those who tried to stop them fell quickly to Drax's plasma rifle. They reached the docking bay just as a human frigate, the Relentless, latched onto the damaged vessel. Marines poured through the airlock, weapons ready. They swept through the ship with brutal efficiency, eliminating the remaining mercenaries. A medical team rushed to Daniel and took him from Valera's arms. She watched them load him onto a stretcher and connect him to machines that beeped and hummed with urgent rhythms. "Will he live?" she asked the human medic. The woman looked at Daniel's wounds and shook her head slowly. "He should already be dead. The blood loss alone. I have never seen anything like this. He has at least 7 wounds that should have been fatal. But will he live?" "I do not know, Princess. I honestly do not know." They took him away. Valera stood in the docking bay, covered in Daniel's blood, and felt something she had never expected to feel. Fear. Real fear. Not for herself, but for him. Hours passed. The Relentless jumped to safety while medical teams worked on Daniel. Valera sat outside the medical bay, refusing to leave despite Ambassador Park's gentle suggestions. Drax sat beside her. His wounds had been treated, though he still looked terrible. "I owe him my life," the commander said quietly. "We all do. If he had not reached engineering, if he had not disabled those bombs and sent that signal, we would all be dead. I know. I mocked him, called him useless, said he was only good for preparing meals. I know. I did the same." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, the medical bay doors opened. Ambassador Park stepped out, her face tired but relieved. "He is awake," she said. "The doctors say it is a miracle. He should have died at least 3 times during that fight, based on his injuries. But he held on. How?" Valera asked. Park shrugged. "They do not know. The human body is strange. Sometimes, when the stakes are high enough, we can push past limits that should be absolute. We call it many things: adrenaline, willpower, stubbornness." She smiled slightly. "Daniel has more stubbornness than anyone I have ever met." Valera stood. "May I see him?" "He asked for you." She entered the medical bay alone. Daniel lay on a bed surrounded by monitoring equipment. Bandages covered most of his body. His face was pale, his eyes sunken with exhaustion. But when he saw her, he tried to sit up. "Stay down," she ordered. "You will tear your wounds." He relaxed back onto the bed. "Princess, you are safe, thanks to you. I was just doing my job." She sat in the chair beside his bed and looked at him for a long moment. This ordinary-looking man. This primitive human without enhancements or modifications. He had killed a dozen Vryn with nothing but a knife. He had saved her life. He had nearly died for someone who had treated him with nothing but contempt. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you fight so hard for me? I was terrible to you. I mocked you. I called your species insects." Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was weak but steady. "Because that is what humans do, Princess. We protect people. Even people who hate us. Even people who do not deserve it. Because if we only helped those who treated us well, what would that say about us?" Valera felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not cried in over a century. "I was wrong about you," she whispered. "I was wrong about all of you. Maybe." Daniel closed his eyes. "Or maybe you just did not have enough information. Now you do." She stayed by his bedside until he fell asleep. Then she stayed longer, watching him breathe, guarding him the way he had guarded her. It was the least she could do. 1 week after the attack, the peace negotiations began on Meridian Prime. The station floated in neutral space, a massive structure of glass and steel, where species from across the galaxy came to resolve their conflicts without bloodshed. Thousands of diplomats, warriors, and politicians filled its halls. Princess Valera walked through those halls with her head held high. Her lavender skin was flawless, her silver eyes sharp and clear. She wore the formal robes of Sithrani royalty, layers of silk and metal that cost more than most starships. Behind her walked Commander Drax, fully recovered and carrying a new set of weapons. His warriors flanked them in perfect formation, and at her right side, one step behind, walked Daniel Cole. He wore the dress uniform of the human military. It was simple compared to Sithrani formal wear. Dark gray fabric, silver buttons, a few modest medals on his chest. He still moved carefully, favoring his wounded side, but his eyes were alert and watchful. The other delegation stared as they passed. Word of the attack had spread across the galaxy. Everyone knew that a single human bodyguard had killed 12 Rin assassins with nothing but a knife. Everyone wanted to see the man who had done the impossible. Daniel ignored them all. His attention was focused entirely on his surroundings, scanning for threats, watching for danger. Some things never changed. The main assembly hall was enormous, filled with representatives from 100 different species. Valera took her place at the Sithrani delegation's table and looked out at the gathered crowd. Her father's hologram flickered to life beside her. The Emperor's ancient face was unreadable, but his voice carried a hint of something that might have been pride. "You have the floor, daughter. Make it count." Valera stood. The hall fell silent. "1 week ago," she began, "I nearly died. A group of Rin mercenaries attacked my vessel with the intention of killing me and destroying any chance of peace between the Sithrani Empire and the Human Confederation." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Valera waited for silence before continuing. "The investigation has revealed that these mercenaries were hired by members of my own government. Sithrani who opposed peace with humans. Sithrani who believed that humanity was too primitive, too weak, too insignificant to be worthy of our respect." She paused, letting those words sink in. I shared those beliefs. When a human bodyguard was assigned to my security detail, I treated him with contempt. I called his species insects. I mocked his lack of enhancements, his simple weapons, his ordinary appearance. I believed he was useless. The hall was completely silent now. Every eye was fixed on the Sithrani princess. I was wrong. Valera turned slightly, gesturing toward Daniel. He did not react, his face as calm and empty as always. "This man saved my life. When assassins overran my ship, he fought through them with nothing but his training and his determination. When we were trapped with failing life support, he crawled through toxic tunnels to reach the engineering section. When he found bombs that would have destroyed the entire vessel, he disarmed them with minutes to spare. When 12 Rin warriors surrounded him, he killed them all." She faced the crowd again. "He did these things for a princess who had treated him like an animal. He nearly died for someone who had shown him nothing but disrespect." When I asked him why, he said something I will never forget. He said that humans protect people, even people who hate them, even people who do not deserve it. Valera's voice grew stronger. "I came here today to speak about peace between our species. But I realized that I first needed to speak about truth. The truth is that I was blind. I looked at humanity and saw only what they lacked. I did not see what they possessed. I did not see their courage, their determination, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat, even when all hope is lost." She looked directly at the human delegation across the hall. "On behalf of the Sithrani Empire, I apologize. We have underestimated you. We have dismissed you. We have treated you as lesser beings. We were fools." The human ambassador rose and bowed slightly. Valera returned the gesture. "And now," she said, "I have a formal request to make." She turned to face Daniel directly. "Daniel Cole, you were assigned to my security detail as a diplomatic gesture, a symbol, but you proved yourself to be something far greater. I am formally requesting that you remain as my permanent escort, not as a symbol, not as a political gesture, but because I trust you with my life more than I trust anyone else in this galaxy." Daniel looked at her. For a long moment, his expression did not change. Then something shifted in his eyes. Something almost human. "I accept, Princess," he said quietly. Applause erupted from the human delegation. After a moment, other species joined in. Even some of the Sithrani were clapping, though others looked uncomfortable. After the formal session ended, there was a reception. Diplomats mingled and made deals in quiet corners. Valera found herself standing beside a window that overlooked the stars, with Daniel at her side. "You did not have to do that," he said. "The public apology. The formal request. It will make things complicated for you politically. I know. I do not care." She looked at him. "I meant every word, Daniel. You changed something in me. You shattered everything I believed about humans. About myself, I just did my job. No, you did far more than that. You showed me what honor really looks like. What courage really means." She paused. "My entire life, I have been surrounded by warriors who talked about glory and duty. But when the moment came, when death was certain, they hesitated. You never hesitated. Not for a single second." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "I have failed before. More times than I can count. I have lost people I was supposed to protect. I have made mistakes that cost lives. I am not the hero you think I am. Perhaps not. But you are the hero I need." Commander Drax approached them, interrupting the moment. He carried something wrapped in silk. When he unwrapped it, Valera saw a blade unlike any she had seen before. It was forged from dark metal, with Sithrani runes etched along its length. "This is an honor blade," Drax said. His voice was formal, ceremonial. "We give them only to those we consider equals in battle. Warriors who have proven themselves beyond any doubt." He held the blade out to Daniel. "You have earned this, human. I have never said those words to an outsider before. I never thought I would." Daniel took the blade carefully. He examined it with the eyes of a man who understood weapons. "Thank you, Commander. I will carry it with honor. See that you do. And if you ever let anything happen to the princess, I will kill you myself. Honor blade or not. Understood." Drax nodded and walked away. Valera smiled slightly. "He likes you. That is the closest thing to affection you will ever see from a Sithrani warrior. I noticed." Ambassador Park appeared at Valera's side. The older woman looked satisfied, like a chess player whose gambit had paid off. "That was quite a speech, Princess. The political implications will take months to sort out. I am aware. You know that keeping Daniel as your permanent escort serves our strategic interest as well. Having a human at your side makes you the strongest voice for human equality in the Empire." Valera turned to face the ambassador. "Is that why you assigned him to me in the first place? Because you knew something like this might happen?" Park smiled. "I knew that Daniel Cole was the best chance we had of changing your mind about humanity, whether through his actions in crisis or simply through his character over time. I did not expect him to need to prove himself quite so dramatically, but the result is the same. You gambled with his life. I gave him a mission. He accepted it willingly. That is what he does." Valera looked at Daniel. "Did you know that they were using you to change my opinion of humans?" "I suspected." Daniel's voice was calm. "It does not matter. My job is to protect you. Everything else is irrelevant. Does nothing bother you? Does nothing make you angry?" He considered the question. "I get angry when innocent people suffer. When bullies prey on the weak. When those with power abuse those without." He met her eyes. "I was never angry at you, Princess. You were simply ignorant. That is not the same as being cruel. And now? Now you are learning. That is all anyone can do. Learn, grow, become better than we were yesterday." They stood together by the window, watching the stars. Behind them, the galaxy continued its endless dance of politics and power. Wars would be fought. Treaties would be signed. Species would rise and fall. But in that moment, a princess and a bodyguard had found something rare. Understanding, respect, perhaps even the beginning of friendship. Valera thought about everything she had believed about humans. About their weakness, their primitiveness, their insignificance. She had been so certain. So arrogantly certain. Daniel caught her looking at him. Something wrong, princess? No, she smiled. For the first time in a very long time, something is finally right. They walked together into the negotiation chamber, equals in purpose, if not in title. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as primitive, unremarkable, forgettable. They had made that mistake before. They would not make it again.